Welcome, everybody, to Emails that Engage Readers and Drive Results. I'm Dan, CEO and co-founder of Forum, and it's my pleasure to be joined by co-authors of Mailed It, Ashley Budd, who is the Senior Marketing Director at Cornell, and Day Kibbles, who is the VP of Strategy at Ology. Hopefully I'm pronouncing Ology.
You did. Perfect.
Yes. Okay, good. The co-authors of Mailed It, which is this book right here, which I thoroughly enjoy, about crafting emails that build relationships and achieve results. But before I hand over to them for a bit, I'm going to do my quick sales pitch about Forum and our Forum Academy. So we build technology designed for universities and schools for their alumni teams. So things like donation portals, in-person and virtual event management, like registration, ticket sales, and check-in. And our main aim is to save you time on your admin. So we integrate with your CRM. But more importantly, this is the Forum Academy. So our teams created this for education professionals to learn from their peers and connect with each other. So if you see that chat on the side, that little bubble, please use that to say hello, tell us where you're from, put any questions in there. Also, make sure you can also look through the attendee list so you can direct message people that you know and make sure that you use this as a platform for connecting with each other. Right after this webinar, we're all going to go to the breakout room as well to chat directly with Day and Ash. So that's the spiel. That's all done. I'm going to pass over to Ashley to introduce yourself first, and then you can pass it over to Day.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm the Senior Director of Advancement Marketing at Cornell University, and I work with other schools and nonprofits too on digital strategy and fundraising. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about Mailed It, our book, with my co-author, Day. Day, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I love it. I love saying co-author. My name is Day Kibbles. I am Vice President of Strategy at Ology, which is a marketing branding agency for education based in the United States. I work with dozens of institutions, seemingly at a time, to support them with branding efforts, enrollment efforts. I've been in higher education for almost, 14 years this year. And most of my roles, maybe all of my roles, have had email in common, which is all culminating in this amazing book that Ashley and I have written that we love and we love sharing with you all.
Thanks, Day. Sorry, we just had a whining dog at the door.
Welcome, Sam.
Yeah, Sam is here. He heard your lovely voices and decided to say names.
Sam loves email.
He's my emotional support dog.
Oh.
Anyway, and he does love email. Of course, he loves email.
Of course.
Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. So I've got a couple of these questions of, first of all, why? Why did you write the book? And there are other books out there. Don't worry, this is not a Dragon's Den question, but how do you perceive that your book is different than some of the other ones that are out there? So why did you write it, and why is it different?
Yeah, I'll start just because I'm wearing the T-shirt that I think explains how we all feel about email, which is it is a terrible, terrible place to be right now. Like we ask people when they think about their inbox, when they're going into their email inbox, how does that make you feel? Like that, like bad, right? And so we know that there is a problem to be solved. And we also really long for the days when email made us feel good, because we are your like peak millennial women. Like we remember those early days of email that was way more exciting. So I think it's like this juxtaposition of like remembering the early days of the internet and what it meant to get a special message. And then look what we've done. Look where we are now.
What have we done? I love answering the question, how is this book different? Because there are books about email out there, but there are no books about email like this one. I think what we actually had to write this when we were pitching to publishers, like what's the market for this? What's the competition? And what I found during that research is that most of the email books that exist, if they are just about email, tend to be really focused on sales leads and like lead generation. And they all are very gimmicky and very impersonal. And, they're treating email like email is treating us right now. It's that yucky, icky, you're just trying to get me to convert feeling. And so we wrote this book because we believe relationships can be forged through email. We believe it can be a really intimate and personal channel. A lot of, at least I grew up all over the place. So a lot of my relationships were sustained through email through my entire life. And I think for me, I always had this soft spot for this channel. And I kind of want to share that with people. And I want to bring the joy back and like that, maybe even intimacy back into email and have it stop feeling like the ugly duckling of the marketing mix.
Yeah, I think that intimacy bit, you're absolutely right, Day. Like the amount of emails that we get, whatever, and the amount from all the kind of the mass marketing channels, there's no kind of stewardship there. It's just very much, this is the next promotional thing, the next thing. But I think what you guys said at the beginning of the book, and I promise you I read more than like the first paragraph, but within that first paragraph, you guys mention like finding a $50 bill on the ground, or like it's your birthday, like opening a birthday present or something like that. And kind of that sense of excitement was like, I think we've really forgotten about that, because way back in the day, when we first started getting emails, like you would check like, oh my gosh, like I got
a message for me,
It was just probably from one of your friends at school or someone, international family or something like that. It was such a special moment. Do you think we're too far gone to be able to kind of capture that or remember that?
It's going to take a lot to swing us back to that. But we, I think, are at this point where the volume of email has gotten like too much. And I talk with, my parents and my in-laws, and like older generations somehow have, if you're not in the workforce, you're not being slammed with email as much as if you are in the workforce right now, and your work email and your personal email, and then like managing your life emails too, are a whole lot. So to be able to swing back to the place where it's like just a sweet note from somebody, probably not. But I think we've gotten to the point where the tools are going to have to help us filter, because we can't even keep up with filtering. And so that's kind of the next horizon here. If our email tools are going to help us get through all of this stuff and get us to, and they will probably help us get to a place where we're only seeing the emails that we really want. I think that there is a chance that we get back to a much more pleasant inbox, but it's going to take some, I think, systems in place to help us do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys mentioned in the book that on average, an average person gets about 100 emails per day.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Like, it's just unmanageable.
Yeah.
Be able to surprise and delight for each.
No surprise and delight. It's just yuck and ugh. I'm hopeful. I do think there, even within those 100 and all the unreads and the mayhem that's in there, there is the occasional email that you get that you're like, oh, I like this, right? It's the newsletter that you subscribe to, or the recipe from someone. Like, there is the occasional email that feels like it used to feel. So I'm hopeful that we can get there, at least in part. And one of the goals that we had when writing this book was that. I think we say it in the introduction. It almost sounds like a manifesto. Let's make this better, right? Like, let's respect our readers. Let's respect the inbox. Let's send things that surprise and delight and serve them. And, if more people do this, we can get there. If it's just, if it's not a lot of people doing it, there's too much volume to try to get there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's move into kind of following on from that. Let's dive into kind of the psychology of. So you guys mentioned a bit in kind of your first and second chapter, some of the psychology around email use, of how we think people should read our emails versus what they actually do. Can you guys talk a little bit about that in terms of maybe like the locations that people will read an email? How many, how much folks on average they look at it. So yeah, let's dive into a little bit so that we can think about it in terms of our thought process when we're crafting emails.
Yeah, like our behaviors have really changed over time, right? From running to your dial-up machine and waiting for it, and then I recall in the book in my first job being able to get through all 12 emails that I had, and then I went and did.
You're reading each one.
And then I went to do my job for the rest of the day, and then maybe I would check at the end of the day to see if I got any more instead of this constant, right? Yeah. So behaviors have absolutely changed in the past 20 years, and now, especially with email on our phones, we are reading email on the go. And in the book, we have this really fun data set that kind of breaks down different generations and where they're reading. And it just really shows that younger people are more comfortable reading in bed and on the toilet. And
yeah, that's why I didn't want to say.
Waiting for the toilet one, that was my favorite. But truly, right? We're on the go. It's while we're talking to other people. It's while we're eating. It's while we're watching TV. And I think really behaviorally, what's happening is we're just trying to get through it, right? We're just trying to get through and delete and get it to a manageable place. And we have to do this all day long, which is so different than being able to sit down and consume every single email, because as we've gotten to this place where you're individually receiving 100 or more emails a day, you're sending them to, time in the day has not changed. So we have less time. And what Litmus has shown in their studies of how people are actually reading, we're using air quotes here, reading email, that you have to change the way that you consume email to be able to get through all of that. And so the time, read time over time has gone down. Yeah. And Day, you're all over this data point here.
So read rate has gone down, I think, from 13 seconds 4 or 5 years ago to 9 seconds now. And most people, gasp at that. Yeah. But really 9 seconds is the most that you can expect someone to spend on your email. The reality is only about a third of the readers would look at it for more than 8 seconds. I think it's something like 41% look at it between 2 and 8 seconds. They call that a skim. Litmus calls that a skim. And then there's a third of your readers, a third of your recipients are going to look at this email for 2 seconds or less. It's a glance. And what I love about how this book came about is that intuitively we had been practicing that. I had this idea of a 2-second test that I was teaching folks and putting my own emails through. And I see this data set. I'm like, oh my gosh, it really is 2 seconds. Because if you can get your message across within those 2 seconds, then everybody that received it gets it, right? Yeah. It doesn't mean they're going to read the whole thing. It just means you have to be so strategic about the placement of your content, the readability of your content, the words that you're using in your calls to action, so that the brain in those 2 seconds picks up exactly what you want it to pick up. And then if that's interesting to your reader, which it should be, because you're doing a good job building relationships, then they'll go and say, oh, okay, I'm going to spend some more time on this now. But we all got to pass that 2-second test to get there. And I think that's, we like to call it it's the true power, the magic trick, the unlocking of the power of email is that idea.
Yeah, it's the hack.
The hack. That's what you call it. Yeah,
it's the hack. Yeah, and we borrow a lot from user experience research because Day and I, as much as we love the email channel, we're multi-channel marketers. We understand websites, we understand how people are getting to take action across the internet, and so we had been following all of these great content strategists and UX researchers. And while seemingly to us, none of them were applying these tactics to email, that's where we started testing, okay, if this is working there, how, why aren't we using simpler language in our emails? Why aren't we taking advantage of some of these reading patterns that web designers are using? So that was the next thing that, you took, Day, was that reading pattern and applied it.
Yeah. So again, this is what happens when you learn a lot and try to apply things and test things. And that's one of the great things about email, that you can test things. We found that the Nielsen Norman Group had a study, I think it's 2004. I think it's an adult at this point, this study. They uncovered common reading patterns on the web back when the web was words on a screen, right? There hadn't been a lot of evolution in web design then. And what they discovered is that when faced with content on a blank screen, what the pupils are going to do, like what the eyes are going to do, is follow something that they called an F pattern. So it's like a horizontal.
Sorry for
Oh, yeah, you can show it.
Can I share that?
Yeah, please show it.
You can talk to it. Okay.
I
don't interrupt your flow.
You know what? I can do this in my sleep, this flow.
Where is
I dream F pattern.
Where's
this one there? Yeah.
There we go.
That's a good one. So to the F pattern, the F pattern is the most significant because this is what they found happened the most when readers were faced with blocks of text on a kind of simple background. It's this top horizontal line. Then the eyes kind of go down to this kind of shorter horizontal line in the middle. And then it's just like this vertical left-hand scan down to the bottom. I believe it was maybe 2016 or 17, perhaps, I can't recall the year, but more recently, they updated the study. They were curious to know two things. One, what happens when the language is right to left reading language, and what happens on a smaller screen, like a mobile device. And what they found is with the right to left reading languages, the F simply flips, which is really cool. And then on a mobile device, the same behavior kind of applies, the same top two lines, but there's kind of more scrolling that happens. And when that scrolling begins to happen, it engages something like the layer cake reading pattern, which is people start jumping from heading to heading to heading to heading. So we started testing this around that time. I started thinking, okay, if I'm writing an email to a colleague, which is just a blank screen with text on top, right? Think you're at your university, you're using Outlook, there's no design. Where do I put the information? Well, if I know that the eyes are going to do this F thing, I'm going to put the most important line at the top. I'm going to put my call to action in that middle line. And I'm going to really make sure that everything else I put in here is like left hand scannable. So that means we need to front load our sentences. We need to use as few words as possible so people don't have to read these super long sentences that actually put the meaning all the way to the right to the screen. And most importantly, you can't waste that first line. And I believe that's one of the most common mistakes in email. Everyone wastes the first line. Mm-hmm. Everyone starts with, I hope this email finds you well, which is...
Come on. No, I'm joking.
I hope everybody stop. The email will find them regardless of whether you wish it or not. Or it's something else like how are you? Or it was so nice to see you yesterday. Or I'm writing to inform you that. And that's the first line, and it might be the only line, and we all throw it away. So one of the most important lessons in the book is stop. Stop doing that. Use that first line to say what you're trying to say. And move the other stuff somewhere else.
Especially in a personal email, this is a book for marketers, for sure. But it will also help you in your interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
And if you're just writing an email to a colleague and you need them to do something for you and you waste that first line, you're wasting that pre-header text that you see in the inbox too, right? It's showing that there's an email from you and that it was nice to see them yesterday. And that doesn't help.
Yeah.
So my hack, because I have to say the nice thing or else the words don't come out. I sit down and I start and I have to write the nice thing. Otherwise, I can't get the rest of the words out. So I will write it.
Yes.
I will write it. And then I will put my cursor above it and I will shove it all the way down to the bottom of that email. And so I've gotten it out of my system. I can write the email. I feel like I'm a nice person. And then it's there as the little sign off, right? So it was nice to see you yesterday, Ashley. That's my sign off. Perfect. I can send it. And the important thing that I need them to read is right up there at the top. And they're much more likely to understand what it is. I tested this actually. Well, I didn't test it. I wrote an email to a group last week saying, we have a whole bunch of websites available for you to go look at, new content that we published, and I needed stakeholders to start reviewing, right? Go look at these web pages. And I named the people who were collecting the feedback. Well, I didn't call that out enough, and I just kind of left it in there in the paragraph text. What did they do? These are the pages I need you to look at. Yes, they looked, but they missed that second part of who needed the feedback, and they sent it to me. I was like, I did not take my own advice.
Yeah.
I should have called that out where their eyes would see it. And this is what's happening, right? Like, people are just not comprehending because they're moving so quickly. So it really, really does work. If you put the stuff where the eyes are going to go.
Do you guys feel now, I've just coming off of that, I know we're sidetracking a little bit, but do you feel an extra amount of pressure now that the book is out in terms of emailing people?
I think people feel more pressure emailing us now. Like, I think,
yeah. You know, my
I think people are afraid to email us now. Like, we're going to judge their emails, which we are, but in a nice way. No, I more like kick myself when I don't do it right, and then I see that people didn't see what I was trying to get them to do.
You're like, well, I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
I didn't listen to myself. But I don't know. What about you, Day?
A lot of people tell us this is so scary writing an email to you, but I actually feel even more intimidated in writing emails because, like, I'm if I set the standard, then I can't relax. So depending on the situation, I'm just always like overthinking it. I'm doing the 2-second test on my own emails because I am also intimidated. I also am. So I tell people that when they tell me, oh my God, it's so scary writing to you. I'm like, I'm scared too. Don't worry. I won't judge you publicly.
Yeah. Yeah, you can put that as a quote, we're just going to scare you into writing good emails.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or not writing at all.
We're not writing. But let's talk about that, because there was one stat, and then I want to talk. So let's talk about the stat, but then also want to talk about the importance of the trust element, like who's it from, and the byline and the subheading and all that stuff. But there is a really interesting stat. I can't remember if I talked about it at the beginning of this episode or not, or if we talked about it in the green room. But there is the amount of actual emails that are sent every single day. We talked about 100 per person, but can we run through that just quick in terms of like how many emails? And I'm saying per day because when I heard this number, I thought it was per year.
I think we're pushing. I think we're pushing 520 something. Am I right on that? Billion emails.
Yeah.
Per day.
It is up there in that kind of region, and I thought that was per year.
370 billion.
Okay, I gave us an extra 200 billion.
I was just going to
give or take.
I was going to get. We all have.
We've all got it. We've got it bookmarked. It's billions and billions and billions, right? Like Carl Sagan, billions.
400. Yeah.
And that's right. Both personal and professional email sent worldwide every single day, and it's the chart you just saw briefly is going up, right? So that's projected out into 2025. It's going up, and that's what we feel. If you feel like you're getting more email than ever, you are, and so the top of the webinar we talked about, like, something's got to give here, and I think some email tools are trying, right? They're trying to give you other folders to sort things in. Here's where to pay attention first. Here's what not where to pay attention first. But I think where you wanted us to go is like, again, how has our behavior changed? When you open your inbox, what do? And you probably haven't thought about this as deeply as we have. But what you're going to do is you're going to scan all the from names in your inbox first. You're going to scroll down who did I get mail from? And as email marketers, we've spent way more time thinking about the subject line of our emails than the from name.
The from.
And the from is so like it's the first hurdle
It's
that
so
you
important.
have to cross, right? That's what it's bigger. If you look in your inbox, like the name is bigger, sometimes it's bolder, it stands out, and that's what you're scanning first. And there's a great debate, Jay, about this.
There's been a great debate. Should it be a person or should it be like the business name, organization name, institution name?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, maybe 4-5 years ago, there was like a big pendulum swing toward people names. Like if you get an email from a person, you're more likely to open it, right? But I don't think that's uniformly true. I think if you get an email from a person you don't know, you're just as likely to ignore it as an email from a company you don't know or an institution you have no relationship with. So we've tested that too. And what we found is it doesn't matter whether it's a person or an organization or a company or a business or an institution. What matters is, does your reader have an existing relationship with this entity, right? Does the reader know who this is or what it is? And especially for higher education, universities and the like, we are very guilty of this. And I would say even more an advancement than enrollment. We send emails with the name of the dean of the thing, with the name of the college president, and how many alumni actually know those names? I don't think anyone knows the name of the current dean of students at the university they graduated from 20 years ago. Why would you, right? Why would you know the name of a person who graduated, sometimes it's an alumni volunteer that graduated in a different year from you that's not your friend. And you're like, I don't know this person. And you're actually less likely to open it than if you get an email from, Cornell University, which you do recognize. So I think that's really important. And I think that's really challenging for higher education. I've also seen, so the trend has been to merge the two, right? So you might get an email from Dan at Forum. And I think that's cute if it is actually an email from Dan, right? If it's an email that's just a marketing email.
Yeah.
And we can tell it's a marketing email because we're savvy and you're trying to put a name on there. So I open it, then you've just lost my trust for the next one, right? And so I think if it's a name because you actually have a relationship with the person you're emailing, fantastic. That's going to work probably. But if you don't have this relationship, then pick whatever the person's likely to recognize, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like one of actually your examples is like political emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Barack Obama was in your inbox all the time back then. And now it's something else. And it's like, we know it's not them. That's not going to work, It's not them. So, yeah.
I think a real life example of this, and I might be putting myself on trial, was last week we had a case in Manchester, and there's a list of names, and obviously we said, we took your advice and said you'll be receiving a couple of these emails. If you don't want to receive them, just let us know. We'll take you off the list, but this is why you're receiving the email. But we sent it from me and said Dan, and I'd gone through the list and been like, okay, I really know that person. We will not send them because I've been communicating. We will not. And one fell through the crack. And she responded to me to be like, great, Dan. Yes. Great to see you there. And I was just like, ugh. So I saw her at the conference, gave her a big hug. I was like, you know what? Yeah, my bad. Your name was on the list. I knew you were coming. I saw that email go out and blah, blah, blah. But I think you're absolutely right about kind of putting a name there when it is that marketing side, and just trying to find that balance really of who's it going out to. And I think as a young brand, which is Forum, we're trying our best to try and kind of find our way and find our tone of voice for sure. Anyway, disaster averted. But what I will like to talk about, because we've got about 15 minutes, and I still want to get into kind of a couple of real world examples. But one of the things that really jumped out at me, and it's kind of similar to kind of what you were talking about, guys, about the from and the subject line and stuff like that, is the trust triangle.
Yeah. Trust triangle.
Very cool. So you've got, the authenticity at the top, empathy and logic connected to it. And then in the middle is trust. And I think that's a really interesting idea behind, the audience that you have. And it could be an audience of tens of thousands, or it could be an audience of a couple hundred. And so trying to keep that trust. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that in terms of what your thoughts are for it?
Yeah, we love this model because it's so simple. Triangle is strong, 3 points, easy to remember. I think this really clicked for me because as a marketer, like I've been told you have to be authentic. I've told let's do empathy maps, right? Like these were not new concepts to me. But the study that we cite in the book is from Frances Frye and Ann Morris. There's a Harvard Business Review article that came out in 2020 with their research, and it was presented to me in a way to help me be a better leader and think about interpersonal trust building. But I couldn't help myself and say, like, ooh, this is a solid model. Does this work in marketing too? Can I apply this in marketing? But the thing for me that felt different than just hearing, you have to be authentic, you need to think of, you need to be empathetic, was really thinking about a person who you don't trust and applying this model to that person. And so what the researchers will say is if there's 1 point of your triangle that is not strong, then you have a wobbly triangle, which I think is very cute. You have a wobbly triangle, and try to find out where that wobble is so that you can correct it and you can build a trusting relationship. And so I think about a colleague that I don't trust, and this person, very authentic, brings their whole self to work. That's not it. Like, I know this person, I know she's showing up as her whole self. I trust, I trust that she's being honest with me. I trust that she is going to make sure that I'm successful. That's where the empathy thing is on an interpersonal level. Like, is she invested in my success too? Yes, I know that. So I can trust her there. But why don't I trust this person? It's on the logic side. I have no idea how this person makes their decisions. And I cannot follow their logic. And so that's the thing. Like, I just don't trust her. I can't follow her logic. And so I was like, oh my gosh, there's this third piece here that's really, really important. And so when you think about applying that to marketing, you have to show up with a voice. The authenticity is having a voice, sounding like a human, which is so important right now because we are humans are savvier than robots. We can tell when a robot wrote something. Yeah. So you have to have a voice. You have to be authentic. Yes, sure. You have to be empathetic. And that is not happening in email. That is why this email does not find us well. Because we're not respecting the readers and their time. And then you need to make sure things are really like easy to follow. And this is not a new way of building trust. Like you can trace ethos, pathos, logos back to Aristotle. It's these are the three core drivers, which makes me feel good too about this model. Like it goes way back. So we can feel good about this.
Stood the test of time.
It has. Yeah. But like, how do we think about applying it? Right. It's like having a voice, delighting our readers and like having something in it for them that's going to make them feel good and making what we want them to do really easy to follow. Would you add anything else, Day?
Yeah, I mean, I always think about enrollment first because that's where most of my experience is. But even in other industries, I used to work in automotive, very different. I think the empathy one is really interesting to me because when we send emails, we're generally thinking about ourselves and our goals and our needs, and we need to communicate this thing and we need to communicate that thing. But very few institutions actually take a step back and think, hey, I wonder what they're feeling in this moment that they're going to get this email. And should our tone at minimum match that, right? So when I think about it in enrollment, emails are so exciting all the time. Like, this is the biggest step in your life. And, I can't wait for you to apply right now. And like all that. And what really the students are going through is a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity and a lot of maybe decision paralysis and who knows what. And very few emails are empathetic in that way, tone-wise. But I mean, there's also empathy in not sending things people don't need, right? Yes. If I had a magic wand, I'd get rid of the idea of an email blast altogether. Like, there should be no email blasting anything. And then with logic, one of the things that I think of too, in addition to make it easy to follow, like, easy to see what it is that you want from them is, why am I getting this in the first place? Like, why are you sending this to me? If it doesn't make sense to me that I'm getting this, that's not logical to me, right? So I think about a segmentation a lot. I think a lot about, I would say 80% of the emails my husband gets as a faculty member at an institution. Like, why is he getting that? So it's so applicable, and it's so cool to think about each of those corners of the triangle, because it can change the strategy and the email itself.
Yeah, and I want to apply it to the subject line, because we didn't talk about subject line yet. We talked about from name, subject line. Oh man, this is also something that's evolved over time, and we are going to revert back to like the original purpose of a subject line, which is the subject of the email. It's what's in the email. This? Like, that's what the people who designed this technology got it right. Like, tell them we're going to give you this space in this tool to tell them what's in the email. And then marketers came in the early 2000s and are like, we're going to trick people with this. Like, we're going to write something cute.
So intriguing.
It's going to be, we're going to ask them a question that they can't help but like, they're going to want to answer. So make it a question, or like make it something tricky, right? Like, we did that for years, and we put all this creative energy into having these really, I can't even call them interesting anymore, but like these like kind of like thought-provoking,
gimmicky.
They're gimmicky. That's what it is, right? And we got away from what a subject line was, and we tried this new thing, and it worked for a little bit, but now everybody knows the trick, right? And instead, if we know that's our job as communication professionals to not just send the email, but to get our message received by the other person, and we know that they're going to scan through and look at from name and subject line, we can get our message across in the subject line. If it's our job to tell them that homecoming is September 25th, that's the subject line, right? And like, if they're interested, great, they'll probably open the email and they'll learn more. If they're not interested, we still told them, we still did our job, and now they can move on. And so that, I think, is a huge part of being empathetic. It's like, don't waste their time being cute. And now that I've broken the hearts of more email subject line writers who are like, I can't be cute anymore, I quit. There's still a creative challenge that exists in email writing. It just can't be like, you just have to be so much clearer. And that, I think, is like another response to this behavioral change, where we can really be helpful to our readers. We can build more trust with them because we're telling them exactly what it is, right? The relationship is not about tricking them. The relationship is about like, let me not waste your time. Let me just tell you what it is right there in the subject line.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's I want to add to that just quickly, because there's a very recent application that is going to make that even more important, which is all the filters in our inboxes, moving emails to spam and promotions and whatever. What Apple and Gmail are doing is scanning the email to make sure it matches the subject line. And like, that's how they're determining things. So it's not so much if you write free in all caps anymore. Like, spam filters are super smart now. And so if your subject line doesn't match your email, you might get flagged and go somewhere else. So it's even more important now to just drop the cute, make the subject line what's in the email in as few words as you can.
Okay. We've got 5 minutes left, so I'm furiously just chopping things off the list of all the things I want to talk about. There's so much, like when we were talking about how to win over the key stakeholders or your manager about what you're trying to do, or
bring us back for that one. We can do a whole
we can do that, or segmentation, or Ashley, you talked about how it felt so liberating to do like a breakup email with people that haven't engaged with you, and say, if you don't respond, you'll be taken off at this time. Like all that stuff. There's so many things, but we only have this time. So we've got a few minutes left, and I would love to just kind of maybe pinpoint just one kind of real life example that you guys have used. I don't know if you want to do the dog one, or if you want to do one from Cornell. If you want to do, is there one that you can maybe do in like a couple minutes?
Yeah, we got to do the dog one. It's our favorite.
Fine. We'll do the dog one.
Okay, so there's an email in the book that we love to reference in our trainings. It's a random email that I got about 3 years after running the Buffalo Half Marathon, which we were supposed to blur out in the book, as you can see. So I ran the Buffalo Half Marathon. 3 years later, during COVID, I get this fundraising email from them, and it has a really odd subject line, like "Runners to the Rescue" or something like that, or "Runners for the Giving Day." I don't know.
Yeah.
Runners to the Rescue.
Yeah, and then
Tuesday, and it was
for
a
Giving
4
Day.
in the thing as well.
It's a 4 because you're supposed to add a number, right? Anyway, so you open it up and you see an adorable picture of a dog with a plushy stuffed vodka bottle. You see Tito's Vodka logo, and you see Giving Day logo, or Giving Tuesday logo, and you see the Buffalo Marathon logo. It's first thing you see. They're all blurred out in the book, but now you know. And then it's like 4 paragraphs of text. No idea what this is. I cannot make sense of this. Why the Buffalo Marathon? What's with the dog with the vodka? What is this, right? No logic, no empathy. So, because I was doing these trainings, I'm like, what is in this email? Let's actually read it, right? I read a lot of emails, bad emails like this, to make them better for training purposes. And it turns out this email was asking me to donate because the marathon and Tito's Vodka were supporting local shelters in Buffalo that had a surplus of population. And if they couldn't raise X amount of money, like, all these pets were going to be put down. And it's terrible. That's terrible, right?
No, it's
and
horrible.
so,
Horrible.
I mean, Tito's Vodka like had a match challenge. So they were like, for every $1 you give, we'll double it, whatever. I missed all of it, like all of it. And so what I do in the book is we rewrite it and using everything that we teach. And immediately you see donate to save pets. Like, pets will be euthanized if you don't give. Will you give $10? And you don't have to read the vodka thing. You don't have to know that it's Giving Tuesday. You don't have to know any of that. Most people would react to this and say, yeah, even if I don't live in Buffalo, yeah, here's $10. So I love that example because it has real life consequences. To really,
if you were gonna, did they end up using this day, or was this just your?
No, that's just me.
They probably had to kill. Like,
I wish.
Yes, many pets died from bad email.
And I hate that. I hate it.
All right, we're out of time. This one online if you guys want to look
save lives with your emails, people.
Yes, and just like that, Sam's come over and wants me to pet him. But what I'll do to wrap up is, are there a couple key takeaways that the two of you could come up with, just for the end bit before we wrap up and jump into the breakout rooms?
Yeah. So we like to say trust is first. There's a reason all those chapters on trust and relationship building come before the hacks of the reading patterns in the book. That's first. The second thing I'll say is simple language is so crucial. And this is crucial for any marketer, for any platform, any content we create. We need to be writing at a reading level that our readers can just understand really quickly. We need to front load our sentences. They need to be simple. They need to be short, no extra words. Do you want to add a last one, Ash?
Give yourself a 2-second test. Look at your email for 2 seconds. And if you see your call to action or you see the message that the person is supposed to see, then you've got it right. Amazing.
Thanks, both of you. We haven't had time for any questions, but I think we got through most of our things. So everybody who is watching us, we are going to move over to the breakout room in a moment. So it's just that little door, half open door icon-y thing on the left-hand side. But before I do that, I just want to thank the both of you so much. I know how busy it's been with the book release and all this kind of stuff. #1 on Amazon as well. Well done. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to go through some of the stuff with us. It will be recorded as well, so we'll be sending it out to other individuals with an extremely long email, probably. We'll send it out to everyone. So I know the majority of our viewers are UK based. There's a couple of joining us from the US, but I think you guys are kind of really leading the way in terms of how we're trying to communicate and just be nicer to each other and just give each other breaks by saying, this is what the email says, just do this. So I really commend you. And it's for those of you that haven't picked it up, I would definitely look up Mailed It. I'm not getting paid for this at all. I bought this book. This is true endorsement. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much. And I want you guys back maybe next year to talk about some of those other bits as well.
Would love to.
Oh, lovely. Yes.
Come
Nice.
hang out with us in the green room.
Yeah, come
Breakout
in
room.
the
Breakout room.
breakout room. All right. We'll see you guys later.